Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Brian Mull here with a video showing an overview of Trello, which is a light project management tool that I've used in the past for organizing marketing projects and other efforts alike. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you some of the different features of Trello, and then I'm going to show you how I'm using these for critical design and how we can use this process or this tool moving forward to keep everybody on the same page. So as you can see here, you can set things up into different categories. You could have your own set of personal boards where you just have access to those, nobody else does. You can set up team boards like critical design I have set up as a team. So I can go in here and add team members, and then all those team members have access to those specific boards under that account. So that's what I'll be doing for critical design. I got Tone in there. I'll add in Anthony D, and then all three of us will have access to these different boards. But I don't want to jump into the boards just yet. So it's nice to have a set of personal boards. It's a nice set to have one for business. This was from a while ago when I was doing freelance work. I would put my projects under here, and I'll start it. There's a lot of cool things behind this. So number one, you can color code things. You can separate them into different lives, like if you want personal versus business, or if you have business and then you have ones you want that are your own business but your own personal boards. You can set this up any way you want. So let's actually jump into one of these boards, and I'll show you some of the cool features. And I'm just going to take one that I made for a personal project when I was hooking up my Honda Civic. So in here, you have different columns, and you can add columns, add column 2, add column 3, and you can create cards within the columns. So I can put new card, or I could go use step 1, step 2, step 3. There's different ways you can use these boards. Put them in chronological order by the number of steps, or just use it for notes. But what was cool about the Civic board is I made a card. Like, for example, I'm going to get roll center adapter plates. Well, I put a picture in here. And within this picture is a checklist of things I have to do, things I'll need to do to the engine. And I can go and add in a checklist really easily. Add another one. Item number 1. Item number 2. You can also add comments. So over time, here's a website that I was at that had all the information on how to put this on my car. So I copied this into the notes. I even snagged the link, grabbed the picture. And what's cool is you can make the picture the cover. So on this board, I went very visual. I had all my suspension things. I used pictures so I know what's what. And each one of these will have a link or information on this particular part. And in my car, I got the suspension, the engine, exterior, interior. So I set it up by those 4 categories. So here's all the stuff that I'm doing for the engine. And as I get done with these items, there's a couple things you can do. You can either have a completed column. So let's say I have already installed the magnetic drain plug. I can go and drag this card over to the completed column. And now it's no longer in there. Another thing that you can do is go and archive an item altogether. So let's say I don't want to just mark it completed. I don't need it anymore. I can open up this card, archive it, and it saves all your cards and old cards in this archive list. So if I go over to archived items, here's all the past things that I had that I had already archived. So I already got my wheels, I already got these spacers, like I already got a new bumper. So I moved those into the archive. So some people prefer to have a completed column that's visible. I prefer just to put them in the archive if it's done. So let me bring back that card. So I want to keep that in there. Send back to board. Right there it is. So this is a very visual way of managing things, but it's also a good way to show pictures and the different comments and attachments and checklists that you can use within these different cards. So let me show you some things about moving cards around. So if I go down to my freelance board, I don't freelance anymore, so I don't really have any projects in here. So what I could do is this one that says business development, let's say this doesn't need to be here. I can move this whole list over to a different section. Now that's gone. I could either archive this entire list, Or I can go and archive this entire board. I'm done with this board. So I can come over to more, archive, close board. This board will now be done, and I'm going to close it because I'm not doing this kind of work anymore. So go back here. Now under Team Love Knife, there's just uh, this one set of tasks, and this is for a website, kind of like educational resource site that I was doing. And I'll put all sorts of things in here, like what training I'd want to do, or where's some resource lists. Like here's a web developers list of all these web developers I know. I keep this in here in case I need to contact them. Maybe some good examples of design. Maybe certain tasks. Hey, this is what it takes to get this site on WP Engine. Maybe some social profile setup. You can move these cards in different ways. You can go move these cards across each other. It's pretty cool. So from an aspect like that, it makes it really those are like the basic features, but I'm going to show you where this really starts to get cool. And this will be the great time to explain the critical design setup that I have going. So right now for critical design, I have 4 boards that manage my entire critical design life minus HubSpot. So HubSpot gets all the sales activity, all the emails, all my follow-ups for various clients or customers and leads I keep within HubSpot. But everything else that's marketing related or any not even marketing related, I keep in just Trello board. So let's look at this admin one. In here, I'll have new hire info. So Susan Lewis, I know we need to discuss the possibility of hiring her. So within these cards, I use naming conventions. It's usually the topic dash what's the next step. Sometimes I will color code them if they are immediate and need to happen. So this one's getting a green light because I'd like to talk about her. So I have this with a color green. I know this is about the interviewing Susan Lewis and discussing the possibility of hiring her. Let's look at Stephen Kansad. So within here, I copied all the info from the emails between Keith Gilchrist and even my notes from when I met up. So I keep I'll keep these kind of projects updated by writing in comments and copying in emails. So if somebody said, "What was that email like he said about the about Stephen Kansen interview?" I can just come right here and look at it versus going to Outlook. So once again, his topic, step number 1, number 2. So discuss with Anthony and Tone, and then follow up with Stephen from there. So at a glance, I can look at my card and know what the topic is and my next 2 steps. And I can also see by these icons whether or not there's info in for me. Another thing you can do is set due dates, which is just really nice. Like I need this done by March 1st. Well, I have it on March 1st because Brian Long starts that day. um, that is nice if we start to assign things to team members. So that's something you can do. Let's say I create a task and it's onboard paperwork for Brian Long. I can come into this task. Maybe it's super important, need to get it done now. Maybe there's a checklist that goes with it. Have him sign papers, deliver computer, and HubSpot training. I'm just doing this for the sake of demonstration. And if there's any emails or comments that you wanted to paste, you could save them in there. So I made a checklist. Let's make a due date. This is due within a week. Okay. I'm going to hit save. Attachments. Let's say I need to attach something in here. Let me see what I can grab quick from my computer. Okay, I can add in this picture of Brian Mull. And you don't have to have it as a cover. You can remove it as a cover. But I'm going through to show you what these different things do and why these cards are so powerful. What I can also do is say, well, Anthony's all in on this. He's in on this task. So now he can see that. And what will happen is you can go and assign these tasks to team members. So this can now be Anthony's task versus mine. So once again, you can move this card. Let's say this card didn't belong here. I can move it over to live events. I'll move it back. So now if I go over to live events, where did that card end up? Onward paper for Brian Long. We move it back. Admin. So let me keep going on here. So this task could be copied. You could subscribe to it. So let's say you wanted to know anytime there was an update or a change to this, you could subscribe to this, and it'll send you email updates. Lastly, if I'm done with this, usually you can click off these boxes and it'll show this cool little green thing over here. Like this task has been completed. I'll get rid of this green. Okay, if I wanted to, I could go and archive this. And now it's no longer there, but yet it is over in the archive section. Right there it is. So I'm going to run through these. So I have my new hire info, and what I did is Susan Lewis, Stephen, Brian Long, Dawn. These are the people we spoke with. Here's a card that has my steps for onboarding a new employee. I have it into 3 checklists. I could copy this and make this for a new employee and have them go through it. Necessary training certs. So what are the things that some of the new guys should be learning? I'll keep these notes in here. I have my own column for MBOs. Right now, make 50 calls a day. Some vendor training. So here's where we're at with various vendor training. You can attach things like the slide deck from Andrew Mills. In Avanti AppSense, I have my own notes in here. In the Bromium, here's 2 documents, zip files that I could review. So I'll use these to house different things related to the task. So what I did here is I broke out 2 more columns just right now for Brian Long and Dawn, since they're going to be starting shortly. Brian Long's training with Anthony for the first month. We need to develop his MBOs. Have Dawn define her processes and ideas right away. These will grow as we have different tasks for them. But this is my admin board. So let me show you my live event board. Anything that's a live event is in here. So these are the conferences and user groups we've already committed to. And as you can see, there's the dates of when they are, what I need to do next. This green one means I need to talk with Anthony D to see about Connect Live and how we're going to do that. But I'll put all the conferences and user groups that I am attending in here, in addition to being on my Outlook calendar. And I have a section for live event ideas. So let's say we want to do a live event. We need ideas. I've been stocking up ideas I hear from different people and putting them in here as time goes on. So it's a great way to not forget things. So here's Secure World. Well, for some of these bigger projects, I'll have a project notes section where I'll just paste stuff in. So here's an email from SEMO. There'll be more coming into this notes file. But the February webinar, that one's completed. We did the email template, we uploaded the list, we scheduled the email, we looked at analytics. Since this has the 4 check boxes and this project is still in the works, I'm leaving this here, but I know it's completed by this green box. March webinar. Well, I know I need to revise the necessary content items and schedule the send. So what exactly do I need to do? Right here's my checklist. So I can go in and get these done one by one. Secure World setup. We need to define our cyber lounge. We need to have final approval where we're going to put our stuff, and need to get all our promo items printed. And move on here. Now, besides Rochester, Baltimore, these just came up. So I'll have to add lists of these as far as what tasks I need to be involved with to help those events. And since these are new, I didn't add any cards yet. So this is something that we'll be talking about. Citrix Synergy, Interchange, they're a little bit away, so I don't have any cards in here. I could make travel arrangements. Like I could go in here and say, look into travel arrangements. And lastly, I kept this card because this is my template for the Gibraltar gig. So post-promotion, advertising sources, booking and arrangements, a mailer. This is more or less like a template for some of the things I'll need for these other events. So I store it here. So this is my live event board, and at any given time, I can know where I'm at with our different live event elements. But here's where we start getting into the real meat and potatoes. So we got the marketing board, and I did this one a little bit differently. First, this one has my website updates. So add Carbon Black, Bromium on the partners page. I got McAfee off and I added Carbon Black, but I still didn't add Bromium. So I know I need to go back and do that. And when I do that, the little green boxes will show up or know that I'm up to speed on that task. Add a position for an inside sales rep. I need to check Webmaster Tools. I'll start keeping ideas in here. So suggested web content additions, new pages for banking vertical, new pages for legal vertical, awesome bios for team members. These are just things that I would want to do to the website later. I have some SEO strategy notes. the different personas, the key selling points. That's website related. For social media, I'll house different content pieces that I'm going to be posting in the future. So I have a place to store those. I have things that I want to do on Twitter. Um, I'll put notes about LinkedIn. This is a note from Anthony, how he got people to follow him. So I'll store it in there and eventually have a whole section on LinkedIn strategy notes for us. And Google My Business, I'm going to optimize that. A lot of times I'll have a column for strategy and discussion, like, Buckner case study or how to remove contacts from HubSpot. And here's some different databases that I found through emails that we could use to get different client names. I even have a list of competitors that I want to look up. But what I really thought was cool, since like trade show and branding is on the brain, I started doing picture ones for these. So here's a list of the stuff that I'd like to offer at our booth for promos. These snap stands, this mug, business cards, the pens, maybe some stickers. And I'll have to get into my strategy on that later. Sell sheets, a brochure, some polo shirts. For the trade show booth itself, we're going to need the middle part. We're going to need the stands. We're going to need a tablecloth. We'll need the fishbowl for the business cards and possibly give away Amazon Echo. And I have some other ideas for some other gear, hats and shirts and socks, and I'll talk about that then. This might seem weird without me explaining it first. Rather new idea. And then in the sales column, I have a section for sales. So these are our targets. So Orlando law firms, Philly law firms, Fulton Bank, AppSense free training offer. If it's not a live event, it's probably in my sales column. And I also have a whole section in here for networking. So Pyramid Club, different professional organizations that we might want to consider joining to get in front of new people. So for a lot of these, I'll house the lists, some emails that might have been sent in regards to the campaigns. Here's a land of companies and contacts list. I'll have general steps for me. So what's the next step on the Orlando law firms? I got to develop a strategy plan. Same with Philly, but I also want to talk to Richard Massaro to see if he has his contacts and schedule a demo at the Pyramid Club. And here's my list of Philly legal people. So just once again, keeping it all in one area so I know what's what. For Fulton Bank, I've been writing down notes left and right about the different things that we've been talking about. So if any time I want to know, well, what do we say about this? I keep it housed in this project notes section. Entry point topics. These are the different things that we talked about as far as how we're going to get our foot in the door there. So I'll keep those organized within here, and that's what I know what discussions I need to have. Blog post ideas. So hey, if we had our own advanced spearfishing in the banking industry blog post to support the Fulton campaign, I might add more content ideas that'll support this particular sales effort. We talked about the free training offer. I know my next step is to brainstorm for 1 hour to develop promotional ideas. I wanted that done today, and I will definitely get to it tomorrow. So I'll put a due date on there, and it should show up yellow or red when it gets close to the date. So at a glance, this is how I manage my digital life when it comes to critical design. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add Anthony as a member, Anthony DiDonato. So you should get an email soon. Okay. So once I hit send, that'll be on its way. So this is Trello. There's a lot of cool stuff to this, but it's simple. It has an iPhone app so that you can look stuff up and add cards and get updates through the iPhone app. This is by far the simplest method I've found for managing projects without having to go to a full-blown project management system. So I invite you to check this out and let me know what you think. And this is how I manage the marketing activity. So I welcome your feedback. Thank you very much. Have a good night.